We're already rolling cameras. Okay, we should be good to go.
Excellent. So, real quick, just introduce yourself to, all 20 people that might watch this. That includes members of our family.
Nice. Well, my name is Annissa Fragoso. I am a small business owner here in Merced, California. My small business is Farmers Insurance. I've been with them since 2012. Overall, my experience, I've been with doing insurance since 2006, as I was a receptionist when I first stepped into the industry. And I'm also the president of the Merced County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
And are you a Merced local?
I am a Merced local. I actually been here for quite a long time. My youngest son was born here at Mercy Hospital when it was still on M and, right there on M and Bear Creek.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah, so that's almost 20. Actually, no, this month has been 28 years
28
since
years.
I've been, because I moved here in September of 1995.
Wow. And where'd you move from?
So, funny story. I used to be married, and during that time, my husband was a correctional officer for the California Department of Corrections. So we got married in '93, moved down south because that was during the I believe the Clinton era when all the prisons were opening and they put all this money into building these facilities. So we had moved down to Southern California to Imperial Valley, near the border of Mexico. So El Centro, California is where we resided. So he opened up one of the phases of the prison there. And then after that, he put in for a transfer. And since I was kind of over being so far in Southern California, that I wanted to be somewhere that wasn't too far from my family and not too close either. You know what I mean? Like it was like during a period of time where you're young, you're just not interested in hanging out with your family. At least I wasn't.
Totally.
Far enough away, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I moved halfway across the country to get away from my family.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite.
There you go.
Yeah, so that was really nice. I remember when I graduated college, my dad was like, "Hey, I'll go with you," because I got a job offer in California, so we're going to drive to California. And the story goes, I demanded to drive because I lived in Arkansas, so I demanded to drive. Got in the car, and I drove all the way to the border. And I was like, "Okay, you can drive now." And he's like, "Why?" It's like, "I just needed to make sure that I was going to get out." So.
Oh, you needed some insurance.
I needed insurance. So
Nice.
that's my story. And then I've been in California now for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And you're from Nebraska?
Well, I was born in Nebraska. So I was born in Nebraska, grew up in Nebraska and rural Kansas until I was 12, and then we moved out here. My parents moved us to Stockton, and then I went to school down in Orange County and worked in Hollywood for a while, and then eventually found my way back closer to family because my parents now live in Modesto, and my sister lives in Manteca, and my other sister lives in Stockton still. So we kind of did the opposite shift where we moved away and then came back. So
you got to Merced in 95.
1995, yes.
So, let's talk about the changes then that have occurred in Merced. Like, how much has Merced changed since 95 to now? Because when I got here, it was right at the cusp of the UC. Was like they were breaking ground on the UC.
Yeah. So when I came, I remember there was the Farmers Insurance building out on Girard. So that's how long I've been here. That building was still here. I remember, I don't recall, I believe the drive-in might have been already closed down or maybe going to close down. I do remember that.
And that's the drive-in that was off of Childs, right?
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that was always closed when I got here, and I'm all like,
I know.
I feel like I really missed out on something.
You did. But I think Madeira's still got their drive-in.
Yeah, they still do, yeah. So how much has Merced changed? Like,
I feel like it's changed quite a bit. I mean, I remember coming downtown, and me and my husband, we would frequent Trails End, and I remember when the cruise was right where King Asian is there at the corner. So it was Trails End, where the Partisan was, and then across the street was Star Club. And then around the way on Canal was Caps, or the Sidebar,
Wow.
which was now O'Reilly's. So, and then Mainzer Theater was still open as well. I remember going to a comedy show there at the Mainzer. I mean, it was kind of a little dusty and musty. I mean, that's what I remember about the smell. And what else?
Because I remember when I got here, it was no longer Trails End. It was Rudy's. It was the jazz club.
Rudy's, yes.
Star Club was no longer there.
No.
They had moved it all the way down. And then, well, it was Maloney's. So it was Caps, but then it was Maloney's. I used to go to. I used to frequent Maloney's quite a bit in my first few years here.
Yeah, I really didn't pay too much attention to the growth. I mean, like some real serious building, because during that period of time, I was a young mom. I had a couple of 2-year-olds and 1-year-old and a 2-year-old, because my youngest son was born in 95. So that was going on as a mom. I was a wife, and then I was going to Merced College as well during that period of time. So I had a very busy, productive daily routine, because my husband was going to work, and he was his hours were like around noon, I think, noon to 8 at the prison.
Wow.
And so I would basically plan my schooling around his time, his schedule, so that way it wouldn't cause a hindrance for the kids, and there was always somebody there with them. So I had the opportunity to stay at home and like raise my children while he worked, and then go to school part-time.
And what'd you go to school for? Or just
At first I wanted to go and get into it's so funny, I started in the criminal justice field because that's where he was. So kind of like was following in his steps. But then during that period of time, I had a hard time passing the physical, because I was trying to get in with the Department of Corrections also. So I could never pass that physical fitness part, because I've always been a little fatty. So, the ability to increase your heart rate and keep it at a certain level without, you either dying on the table from pedaling so fast and so hard. But since I couldn't pass it, I just went back. I changed my major, and I just started taking like my general ed, because I'm like, okay, if I don't want to do criminal justice, what do I want to do? And since I didn't know what I want to do, I actually kind of took like an accounting class and business courses.
Okay.
So I'm like, let's dive into some business courses. But then the level of accounting and the money involved, and the receivable and accounts payable, like for me, was so foreign. I was like, okay, I know that this isn't for me, because I didn't want to mess with people's money. So I'm like, okay, let's just take a break. So I just literally focused on my general education for a very long time. Just that portion alone on a part-time basis with raising your family took quite a bit of time. So I wouldn't say I even found going back to criminal justice until probably what year was it? 2008, I think, because I've, on and off during a period of time. So literally it took me 20 years to get my associate's degree in criminal justice, which administration of justice is what I ended up fulfilling. But I ended up going that route because I did get into insurance. And then I thought, you know what? I'd really like to get into to insurance fraud.
So your husband was working like a noon to 8 p.m. shift, and you had a 1 and 3-year-old, and you were going to school.
Yes.
Around both their schedule and his schedule.
Correct.
Like that's tough. Like, right. I mean, that's kudos to you for being able to navigate all that. I don't think there's any problem with like getting your AA or 20 years later, right? Like knowing like the intricacies, like how difficult that is. Like I'm going through it right now, right? Like I just have a newborn, and already like I'm exhausted. Like I'm just like, I don't know how other people like navigate it. And thank goodness I have a partner with me, right? And she's there to.
Yeah, it is easy to do, or not that easy, but it is doable. Yeah. Let me just say that it's doable when you have that somebody to support you. But then when you don't have that person anymore, which ended up happening, probably after 6-7 years of our marriage, honestly, it was harder for me to do it with teenage boys because then they're going through this teenage phase. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I just sometimes they made me want to choke them out because they were just unbearably unable to manage. So I could just go to school and concentrate on school. And I used to get so upset with them, that I would. Well, of course, I would, let them have it over the phone because I would get these calls from either the teachers or I had the police picking them up for whatever reason that they were doing out at the skate park. And so then I would tell them when I'd get home because I felt like it was more effective when I would see them. And then I would tell them in my calm manner. I'm going to tell you the PG version, but I basically told them, how do you expect me ever to be able to get somewhere in life if you guys don't support me? I said, I know you guys want to do your thing. I know you're out there just trying to have, whatever fun you think that looks like. I said, but by you getting picked up by the cops or you by getting in trouble in school, I said, that's not helping me. I says, you're hurting me more than you're helping me. And I said, if you just be patient with me. Once I get to where I need to be, I'll be able to help you. And during that period of time, we were poor. I was living check to check. So I knew that they could understand because they knew that we were living paycheck to paycheck. They weren't stupid kids, So I kind of had to guilt them almost into feeling sorry for my situations in order for them to comply. But I don't feel like it was kind of like a guilt trip, but sometimes you have to give kids a reason to want to do good, versus wanting to think about only themselves. But I needed them to know that what they were doing was adversely affecting me and being able to complete what I was trying to accomplish.
What an important lesson to teach your kids at that age, right? I hear you say it was a guilt trip, or maybe you met maybe we feel a little bit bad about those things sometimes, right? Because when we ask things of our children, there's this thing that says I shouldn't have to ask anything of my kids.
Right.
I should just let them be kids. And this is kind of what society teaches us. But in that moment, how important a lesson you teach them, that you as a parent are vulnerable, right? That you have vulnerabilities and that you as a person need help later in life. When we teach our kids that they need help or that we need help, right? Maybe they're not so hesitant to ask for help, right? So my question to you is, when in your life did you learn that lesson? When did you learn that it's okay to ask other people for the help that you need?
Well, I think that I did not learn that till honestly just recently, because let's go back a little bit. I was raised, most Latino families they raise you to be tough. They raise you to whatever bed you make, you lie in it. And they also raise you to be independent, no matter at what cost, because I guess realistically, every decision you make in life, you knowingly know what you're doing, right? But then you don't know sometimes the repercussions of whatever might happen. For instance, I knowingly got married. Unknowingly, I fell in love with this man and I got married to him. And then things just didn't work out at this certain period of time. So then what do you do with that? Right. Do you ask for help? I didn't feel like it was my family's obligation to help a decision that I made, that I knew that I had to make. But teaching this to my children, I wanted them to know that everything that I was going through, whether I was crying or angry or cussing, that I needed them to know and understand why. Mm-hmm. Not because I was just, maybe going through a hormonal thing or whatever that might look like in a woman's view and in a young man's view.
Sure.
But I was just being honest, and not that they needed to hear the honesty or maybe they needed to be teens or kids, but I needed some kind of compliance from them. So I did not realize that till much older. When you are going through something major in your life and you find yourself, you're isolated you're not talking to anybody, you're crying when you're alone, that's when you know you need to ask for help. So it was during those periods of times is when I knew that, okay, this is not normal. You know, I'm feeling a certain way about something that's going on. So that is when I'm like, okay, I need help, you know, and that's when I've acknowledged those things.
I think what's interesting is because you brought this up at the luncheon, right? Is just that cultural aspect of we don't ask for help in these Latino households. We don't talk about mental health. We don't talk about any of these issues, and that really struck me because I grew up in a very kind of extended conservative family in the South, and it was very much the same way. We do not talk about feelings. You know, I grew up in an Air Force household. Like it was just like, you know, we don't talk about our feelings. We don't talk about some of these mental health issues. We everything's fine. Everything's good. I mean, obviously, recently, like my family, we've all had wonderful conversations since then. But it really struck me because that is an aspect of society that here are things that we still won't talk about and we don't talk about, and it feels like that has affected you, like, and it's kind of colored how you perceive your surroundings.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, I'm human. You know, I don't get the opportunity very often where people see me in my vulnerable state. You know, I think I've had a few times where like I've had a breakdown and I have somebody, you know, who it just happens like at this crazy moment. And the receiving person, literally, I know when they're there, like they are like a real true friend, is when once that we hang up and then that person shows up in my office a few minutes later and they're like, okay, let's go. Let's go somewhere. Let's go just kind of decompress. And then after that, I feel better, you know, and, you know, that's when you really realize and, you know, with yourself that, that it's okay. It really is okay to just open up and be vulnerable. And, you know, but most of us, I'm sure you just deal with it, you know, you suck it up and like they say, suck it up, buttercup, and deal with it and just move on. And that's just kind of like I've always been, you know, I've always been that way.
So describe like jumping in, because so you said that you were interested in insurance fraud, but jumping into the insurance field, like, so what prompted that? Like, you know.
So the insurance field, I was unemployed at the time. I want to say I was just a few years outside of my divorce. So because the Department of Corrections just wasn't my thing, too much. It was just a lot of I don't even know what to describe it without being too crass, but it just wasn't a career for me. I'll just say that. So then I got out of.
So we can bleep anything,
right? You can say whatever you want.
Yeah.
Well, during that time, I used to call it Department of Corruption. That was my name for the Department of Correction. It was the Department of Corruption. And so I got out of it. I started looking for work, and I happened to walk in to a mortgage company that was right there at M and Olive. And right before I walked in for the interview, I happened to look to my right and I see Costulus has a help wanted on there. So I walk inside Costulus after that interview or whatever. And then I go in there and then the guy tells me exactly what I need to do to get my insurance licensing.
All right.
So he spelled it all out for me. I ran with it. At the time, I did ask my family for help because those courses and the fingerprinting and the background, all of that was about between $500-$600, you know, back in 2005. And after that, I needed to find my foot in the door. So I started bouncing around through local agencies here, and I ended up working for Fletch and Busby, for Doug and Jeannie Fletch and Pete Fletch when he was still alive. And so they gave me a chance. I was their receptionist, and I just kind of started from there. But secretly, I did not tell them that I was already trying to do the process of being licensed. So while I was sitting up there, I was just, you know, reading my book and taking notes and learning the trade, learning how how it was all just what's happening around me, being aware. And I want to say probably 6 months in, I finally went and told Jeannie that I had an appointment to go take my test, and she was like, "Oh my God," she was so happy. And I just told her that I hadn't said anything because I didn't want to raise the expectations. You know what I mean? I had already taken it before, and it was a hard test. But anyway, it took me probably like another 6 months, maybe 9 months in, to pass. So once I passed, I went right from the receptionist desk right into a sales agent test, and just kind of started from there. So I knew that during that time is when they had passed that state law that all Californians had to have insurance. So I knew there was going to be a money-making business, and it just went from there. I just started just selling insurance and learning from my colleagues there in the office. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot working for Pete and the Fletches. They've really taught me a lot about their service, how they treat their customers and stuff. That was probably my biggest takeaway from working from them, is how they've advocate for their clients. And so I think that's one of the big reasons why I have such a strong liking in the business community, because I followed that model that Pete had set up a long time ago. So
let's switch gears real quick.
Sure.
And talk about the amazing work that you've been doing with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
Like really making them a prominent organization within the county, really shining a light on these businesses, being helpful to all of these businesses. That's got to be something that you're passionate about, because you serve on the board.
Yes.
So that's got to be more of a passion project rather than you're not receiving any type of compensation for this. So
Of course.
what got you associated with the chamber? Why do you still, you put a lot of work into it?
I do.
Why do you still engage in that? Go ahead and talk about that a little bit.
So I got involved with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce because back in 2013, my father was honored by the San Joaquin County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for, I believe it was for community advocate of the year, something like that. It's been so long, my brain is mush. But he received an honorary award at their installation dinner. So me and my sisters attended. And I just thought, wow, that is so great, that they are highlighting and focusing on all of these different Latino people, businesses. They even had kids up there doing poetry. It was a very cultural, eye-opening event for me. So when I came back to Merced, and I happened to bump into the current Hispanic Chamber of Commerce during that time, they actually approached me during one of the super mixers for the Merced County Fair.
Oh, okay.
The ones that they used to have, where they invited all the chambers of commerces. So I met the board at that time, and they had actually asked me if I wanted to sit on their board. So I thought, whoa, this is great, So I go to their board meetings, and then I become a member, and I start paying in. And I was at first I was just not sure, just wanting to see what was going on. And I want to say probably maybe a good year after I joined, and then we just kind of you don't really know what you're doing whenever you get on boards. It's usually you see who's the players, who are the shot callers, what kind of stuff are they involved in. So I probably took a back seat for quite a long time, because I really wasn't sure my role. So with that said, fast forward, we have Renee Gutierrez. We have change in leadership. We have Renee Gutierrez becomes the president. I'm their secretary. Juan Roman's the vice president. Not knowing that they were, reeling me in to this executive position, I was just kind of, okay, yeah, I'll do your secretary. And then I sucked at it, by the way, when I was their secretary. And so, and it was so bad that the president and the VP would do their own minutes and agendas. That's how bad I was.
That's a special skill though. Because I do the minutes and agendas currently for our board meetings at United Way, and that's a special skill, I would say.
Yeah.
I'm like I suck at doing that job too.
Yeah, so they were so cute. They were just like I think they were just trying to they were grooming me, really was what they were doing. They were grooming me. So then, Renee comes out of his position, and then Juan gets in, and then now they're asking me to be the vice president. And I was like, okay, let's get this straight. I will be the vice president, but y'all better not ask me to be president, because I'm going to say no way. Heck no. So they laughed. They're like, oh, don't worry about it. You're going to be great. And so people were like, oh, then I would get the questions, are you going to be president one day? I'm like, heck no, I don't want to do that. It was like, it was fear, honestly. I spoke that out of fear, not out of, any malicious feelings. And so then, the pandemic happens, right? And then they, okay, it's time, I get the news, it's time, I'm going to step out. And I was like, no, I'm not ready, because we were like, what's going on? What's going to happen? We're having Zoom meetings, we're talking, we're just trying to figure out how we're going to stay safe, just following all of the mask orders and whatnot. And so when I was like, I'm not ready, I was like, they're like, don't worry, like, they're going to help me. Like Renee was like, don't worry, Annissa, I'm going to help you. And Juan was like, don't worry, I'm going to help you. I'm not going to go anywhere. We're not going to just, push you in and that's it, So once they passed it on to me, I just took the torch and ran with it. And I feel fortunate, I know that, I guess being a small business owner and having control of what's going on in my office. So I've had amazing staff that is able and capable to run my office when I'm not there. So when I'm not running my office or I'm not in there, I'm either doing, in the beginning, it was like I'm doing marketing presentations and visiting, all of my partners in the community to support my business. But then pretty soon as I became president, it became a priority to where I'm now meeting partners in the community on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce versus my business. So I fell in love with the idea of helping people, because I've always liked helping people, whether it was monetary or whether it was just friends. I've always been that person reliable to somebody, damsels in distress, they come, they're breaking up with their boyfriends or they're breaking up with their spouses. And hey, let's get everybody together. I'm calling all my girlfriends up and we're showing up with cars and trucks and whatnot and helping this person move. So, this is almost the same thing in a way, except that these are people I know, or if I don't know, I get to know them, and they are looking for something in the chamber that can help them grow, or they need marketing, or they just need an introduction, whatever that looks like for the business. It was just a matter of taking that torch and running it with it.
So that's what kind of is ringing, true to me. Like, so, just from in the 90s, like you already admitted to being very poor, and then you had 2 kids, going to school, putting yourself through school, working, and then, then getting into insurance. But all of it sounds very, and then what you keep, referring to, right, is this concept of continually helping people and wanting to help them. But it's seeming like it seems to be colored by your past experiences, right? That where you're like, because of what you went through, you're trying then to kind of help alleviate other people and what they're going through within their community.
Absolutely. Like when you grow up that way, without, I learned to appreciate what you have. So once I knew I was already there, like I had enough, people ask me all the time, like I never got into this business to be rich. You know what I mean? The company would love for me to be rich. I mean, there's a lot of agents that they have 10 people in their office, or they have 13, or they have 5. I mean, those are big agencies. I only have 1.5 sometimes. And for me, it was never about being rich. It was just enough. I just needed just to pay my bills. Yeah. You know what I mean? And when you're at that place where, hey, I can pay my bills and I can help others, like that for me was like, I knew that I was doing okay. And so being not focusing on the business and focusing on helping others made it easy for me, because now I have the time and the energy to do so, and like I said, I want to say probably first became my love for insurance and falling in love in the industry and how I became so good at it. And then it became helping others and helping them win became something that I fell in love with. And farmers just only came second, you know what I mean? And only because I still have to pay my bills. I joke with people all the time, like, you know what, I got to go because I got to go to do my job that really pays me, So then I take off, but when other people win and I see them winning, that's all I need at the end of the day. That I knew that when I go home and I'm tired, my feet hurt me or whatever it is that I'm feeling, it makes me feel good to know that I did my best and time to go to sleep, close my eyes, and I'm rest.
Well, and I think that's what's great to see about or hear about your story, right? Is what you are providing to some of these community members who don't have access, don't have the same kind of, ability to kind of raise themselves up a little bit, and just by the help that you're giving them, or even shining a light on the work that they're doing, right? And that's so important, like encouraging people to help out these businesses, shining a light on some of the people in the community and the work that they're doing. Like that I think is is incredible to watch. And so, I mean, kudos to you. And obviously you have a wonderful board.
Absolutely.
They're
my
very
board.
Supportive.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, I'm only one person. If I did not have my directors to support me and staff, I could not have done as much as I've done without their support, for sure.
And so what keeps you up at night? Like worries about business or the chamber or even the county? Like what is it that concerns you?
So the thing that concerns me right now, obviously, is my industry. That is what has been keeping me up at night. My concern, my colleagues were all in the same predicament. We're feeling stressed and frustrated. That honestly keeps me up late at night. Not knowing what's going to happen. For fear that maybe my company might financially go up. I'm not sure of that either. I'm preparing myself for. My father gave me the best advice, and on anything that I ever gone through in life. He always told me, expect the worst, so that way if the worst does happen, I'm not shocked. Right? You're not shocked. You're not surprised. But if you expect the worst and the worst doesn't happen, then you are totally not disappointed. You're it's an opposite effect. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it kind of, I don't know if anybody else would be like, dang, that's harsh. But for me, I do expect the worst, because when the worst doesn't happen, I'm like, oh, hallelujah. You know what I mean? I'm like, yes. I'm like, praise God. And then I can move on and I'm okay. You know what I mean? But if the worst happens, I'm like, okay, I was already mourning it, right? It happened. Let me mourn it and move on and get over it, So it's kind of that's what concerns me at night. Yeah, as far as the Chamber of Commerce, I mean, I think we're doing great right now. My goal when I became president, of course, was always to give and gift the tool of leadership for all of the directors, because I never want anyone to feel the way I did when coming into the position, like they're dreading it. Mm-hmm. That shouldn't, it should be something of excitement, yes, I'm going to lead this organization. I'm going to develop this relationship and partnerships in the community and continue them. They're going to continue them. They're going to make new ones. So for me, that was something important, because I knew everybody was on the same track as far as wanting to help support the small business community and large, obviously. But at the same token, I wanted to build leaders within our group. And I've seen a lot of growth with a lot of my directors, and it makes me super excited, because I can't wait to see what their legacy looks like when they take the wheel and I get out of the driver's seat. Yeah.
And so what are some things about a chamber that people may not know? Like what is your primary focus with the chamber and these small businesses? Like,
So with chambers of commerces, we provide it's services. It's services on every aspect that you can think of when it involves business. It could be money, it could be marketing, it could be advertising, it could be maybe social media, it could be a lot of different things, right? It could be employment problems, or employee problems, or they're having a problem and they need direction on an attorney recommendations, for the employer. So the Chambers of Commerce is basically a hub within every city in the United States because it's a nationwide organization. We're nonprofit, so we're not getting rich,
Right.
but it's a support to help small business to continue to create the commerce, to help the economy to continue to grow within the city. What people don't know is most chambers, like I said, are nonprofit. They're not in it for profit. Some of them are all volunteer work like us. Nobody gets paid. Any money raised and fundraise, which we do a lot of fundraisers, is for operational purposes. We have to pay our rent. We have to pay our utilities. So that's a huge deal for us. But the focus is getting the information out to the community and the business community, but most importantly, our members, because they buy into this membership as soon as we get it. There's assembly bill coming out of Sacramento and they want us to support the bill. Well, what if the business community doesn't want to support the bill, right? Or what if they do? We just created a GRC committee, which our director, Julian Villafana, is our chairman for that group, and he's building that program for the Chamber of Commerce. It's been something that's been long overdue for us. We've never had that in our group. So I'm really proud of Julian for what he's doing with that. And other things that they don't know is that it could be somebody who wants to get into business, right? Entrepreneurs are born every day. I mean, you have a crazy idea and you want to, how do I develop this, right? Call the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We can plug you in with some free business advisors. We have relationships with the SBDC, as I know you all know that, but the community does not know we have these relationships within the community that are free to help you develop this idea about opening a new business, right?
Yeah, what I think is really important is all of the different workshops that you offer, the different ways that you offer people to connect. I think the number one thing that I've always seen, and I think we've talked about this, is we get into business because we have a great idea, but we don't necessarily have an idea of how to support that great idea.
Right.
And most of the time when I see businesses fail, it's because, they don't have their QuickBooks in order. They don't have this in order. They don't know how to do this. And so I think some of the things that I've seen you all provide, it helps kind of close that gap as far as being like, hey, by the way, perhaps you should consider opening a business checking account. Maybe you separate your own personal finances from your business finances.
Right.
Just those small things that I know that you have offered to people in the past, I think can be invaluable.
For sure. I mean, I got to tell you, like I said, this is a very honest thing. I'm glad we're doing this podcast. So I made a lot of mistakes early on in my career. So that's actually helped build these ideas as workshops for our members, because like you said about QuickBooks, I did not know how to do QuickBooks. I used to save every darn receipt and stick it in a yellow envelope and hand it over to my accountant, and then, which I don't have to do, you know what I mean? There's QuickBooks for that, and I actually took the course that the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce offered, and I took that and learned how to stop saving receipts, or maybe not so many. The other thing I learned is that I hired a staff on a 1099, which I never should have did. But because I did, it got me in a lot of financial trouble, not only with EDD, but fixing those 1099 forms and converting them back to that W employee.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That was a very, very, very expensive learning lesson. So
Sure.
those hard learned lessons that I did financially is why what these workshops continue to do for others, because I'm like, I would never want somebody to go financially go through what I went through.
Yeah. I think we all learn from our mistakes. Most of the time I tell everyone is all like, everything I do nowadays is just based off of all the mistakes that I've been making for the last 42 years at this point.
For sure.
But do you all accept donations, or how much is a membership? Like, how do we support the chamber?
So we have a breakdown of the membership according to size, right? So we have a member. I'll give you an example. One woman, one man show. Which could be Avon Lady. Maybe somebody who does mobile flower service, somebody who does a mobile detail for your vehicle. There's only one person. That would be $100 membership for the year, and they could take advantage of all the services that maybe a corporation would have, right? So then the next level is like 2 employees or more. I think it's up to 5. That membership's $175. So like for myself, since I'm a small agency, it's only 2 of us, so I pay $175 a year for that membership. The next membership after that, I believe, is $275. So that's 9 or more, $275, and then I think after that it's like a $550 membership for 25 plus employees. And then when we get to the level of we have corporate. If you want access to our signature events, to be able to participate and sponsor and basically promote your business through these events, then there's our corporate prospectus, which I'll just give an example. I think there's a package for like $2,500. You pay that money, and then you get like tickets to Latina luncheon. You get tickets to our installation dinner. Your business goes into our programs, both. And then we have our Mercado night market, and your logo would go on the program for that as well. So they have that one. They have higher, and then they have like we call them a la carte, but basically, let's say your favorite event of the whole year is just the Mercados, and you want to just sponsor that only. Then we put you on our marketing material and make sure your banners are up during the event.
And I think thank you for sharing, because really, if you want to become a member, it's really just, at this point, you're going to spend that money anyway if you're going to make a donation to. That's why I think people get confused, right? Is Chamber of Commerce is a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. It works just the same as other nonprofits in there, except this nonprofit primarily helps businesses, which again helps the community at large.
Right.
Fills a definitive need within the county. So for $150, $200, that to become a member and then to be able to get access to that community, to be interconnected.
Yeah. And all of the members always know first when we're having our ribbon cuttings, our mixers. So there's an opportunity to do some good old fashioned, building your network. If you're brand new in business, you want to meet other people who primarily can support your business or spread the word. I mean, we're all using social media. That's what we got to do. We got to just share and support each other. And that's really what it is. It's just a circle of friends, a circle of small businesses all coming together to support each other.
It's community building. I mean,
absolutely.
You were building a community
absolutely.
with your organization. And then, if you want to become one of the bigger corporate sponsors, I mean, there's no better bang for your buck. If you are considering what you get just by being a sponsor with all the events that you put on, with the additional advertising, but again, being part of that interconnected community, I think is really invaluable, because I think everything's moving back to that. I think we got used to like throwing everything online during COVID, but I think now people really are missing like events, being connected, like face to face. I think everyone's really missing that.
Yeah, and I also want to just touch on we're a 501c6, so we can't accept donations. We can only accept sponsorships. So during 2019, our current board at that time created a scholarship foundation, because we used to manage two major scholarships within the Chamber of Commerce. One was, of course, our Hispanic Chamber of Commerce scholarship foundation monies, and then we had the Linda Lopez monies that we were giving to individuals. So with that 501c3 now in existence, we were able to create a different board. So that way anyone who does only wants to donate to a 501c3, we do have an active tax ID number for those persons to be able to not only give back to the community, but they're giving money to future scholars of Merced County. And we give the money to the high school seniors countywide. So all of the high schools get the criteria during, usually it happens around February, and then they are selected around March, April, and the monies are distributed after that. So that's through our foundation.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What about you? You've listened. What do you have? I'm sure you got plenty.
Well, but before you leave us, let me walk some things back for you.
No problem. Walk it back.
Single mother of two boys that you didn't murder. Successfully completed a degree program that
Yes,
took
sir.
you 20 years.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Owner of a successful business that you started.
Yes, sir.
President, although against your will, of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. You talk about how you always prepare for the worst, but hope for the best.
Correct.
But through your story, you have a series of successes that come out of some very hard times. You're continuously successful. You don't get there without having some hope for the future, for a better future for yourself. So I want you to leave us with a moment of optimism. What is it about the future that you think is going to be better? What keeps you going, knowing that there's going to be a better future ahead of us?
Ahead of me. Well, I spent a good amount of time in the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I want to say at least minimum 10 years, right? And my hope and my optimism is that before I leave the chamber, because I can't be president forever, that the next group of people that are current with us is going to be better. I know it's going to be better than in its current state right now, because we have young, fresh, like-minded, energetic individuals on the board of directors, and we're constantly evolving. We're constantly listening to our members and what they want. So I know the best is yet to come. I know it for a fact. And I'm so excited. I can't wait to see what the next president looks like, which is going to be Uriah Perez. He's my current vice president and owner of his own clothing line, Blessed Up. Shout out, by the way. He's also DJ Tag. He provides a lot of, entertainment for like Tarmac over in Atwater. Yeah. But I know that our relationships are going to continue to grow. We have, I know that you're going to have another nonprofit come in after us, which is Cultiva la Salud. That's my best friend. And we've had amazing work together as two nonprofits, coming together to help support the community. And that's exactly what we're about, is collaborating with the other community organizations to help elevate their own mission in whatever that is. And I know that the Chamber of Commerce is in great hands right now, because, like I said, we have young, vibrant, energetic people, and I can't wait to see what that looks like.
You asked the question, what's the worst that could happen? That's the question that you ask a lot, right? Like, be prepared for the worst. What's the worst going to happen? Your life says, what's the best?
My life says, what's the best? Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.